seen what looked like apocalyptic scenes from Spain this week. It did look like something out of a horror film. Let's talk to a civil engineer who lives in Aldaya, one of the towns that is suffering the worst part of the floods, about what has happened and what may be happening in the future. Samuel Romero joins us. Hello, Samuel.
Hello, how are you?
Very well, thanks. So, tell me about what happened just before. Was there any warning about what was about to happen to the area you live in?
There was warning, but never from the government or the regional government. There was a warning coming from the scientists that they were alerting in so many informs telling us there were some heavy rains coming, that those heavy rains were happening up in the mountains. At some point, that water will come to our cities. But when our mobile phones started to make a really loud noise about 8 p.m., where people were already with water under their knees, or people was standing in the top of the cars trying to survive. So it was really disgusting receiving that alert and saying, "Stay at your house." How can you send that when all the water was coming? It was already in our cities. They knew it from so many hours before, that they should have stopped all the works, all the schools, everything, and send people home and tell them to be safe not in ground floors, but in some first floor at least. But no, we received the alert at 8 p.m. in the afternoon. That was crazy.
People in this country think of Spain as a place where it doesn't really rain very much, and we go there for the heat and the sun. Is it normal to get storms? I'm not saying of this magnitude, but something towards this.
Well, the thing is, Spain has so many climate differences in between the north, the south, and the east and the west. In the north, rains are really common, not massive and heavy rains, but it is like a continued rains. But the thing is, climate change is changing everything in here. In Valencia, sometimes, especially in autumn, we have some rains. Sometimes it's a bit heavy rains. But the thing is now these extreme weather conditions are coming more and more often. And this is all due to climate change that we are completely ignoring, politicians are completely ignoring, and this is only coming worse and worse. Because again, scientists, they are alerting from these conditions for so many years ago. And the thing is, we don't listen to them because we prefer to be listening to other indicators instead of thinking, how can we build safer cities? How do we maintain our countryside in order to contain, in this case, that water? Because the problem is that the water, once it hits the highway, you cannot stop it, because it doesn't have any way to get into the soil and to filter through the soil. It just run and run and run until it hits the city. And these are the devastating conditions that we have our city due to this, all this politics and all this ignoring the climate change.
Now, people who haven't been to Valencia might not know that there is actually what used to be a dry riverbed that runs through the entire city, and it usually gets so little rain that it has been turned into a park. Did that have any effect in mitigating somehow the effects of the water?
Of course. Well, the thing is that the Turia River was in the 50s was in the middle of the city. There was massive flood down in the 50s that they decided to divert that river, and now is coming from outside the city center, and it is converted like in a massive canal. What they did is the previous river, they converted into the park. And that massive canal has contained all the water and avoid affecting the Valencia city where more people live. But the thing is, they have been building around all the metropolitan area so many neighborhoods where water used to be. There used to be rivers. So when it rains, water goes where the river used to be. And that is what's happening at the moment, that we are building houses ignoring where the water used to run. So when it rains heavy in the mountain, the water runs just in our cities. The people is alerting about this. People is alerting about not protecting the countryside, but we are just ignoring because those economical indicators and those needs to build more and more houses are ignoring all the rest.
just from my own experience there, I know that you have that extraordinary architectural feature that is the Park of Arts and Sciences towards the end of that now dry river that runs into a park. I haven't seen any pictures of that. It's one of the big attractions of Valencia. What happened there?
Well, that is absolutely fine because I was saying before, this massive canal that is outside the city center has protected Valencia city center. So Valencia is completely dry. It's only a little rain that we had today, and that's it. But today again, we are already in the orange alert. That means that heavy rains are happening. Some part of Valencia are again in a red alert. So that means that more heavy rains is happening in that areas. And I don't know how we will wake up tomorrow morning once we open the window. We don't know what we will find because we were all walking in the streets just moving mud and things to lorries when they tell us to go home and stay safe because there were more rains coming. It's not been so heavy at the moment, but we don't know what's happening in the mountains. If it is raining a lot in there, we don't have anything to filter that at the moment.
And the cleanup. I mean, I saw thousands of people marching over the bridge with brooms and whatever they could take in order to do what they could. It's going to take a lot more than that, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. That is really, really, really helpful because we need to clean so many houses, we need to clean so many businesses that we need all these materials, we need all these people, and more people we will need once we need to rebuild all this. But what we need is big machinery because we need to move all the stuff to lorries in order to clean the streets first and then to put some water in there and start cleaning all the pavement. But yeah, these hands are really needed and we are so grateful of people how they are self-organizing and trying to help everyone, just bringing food, bringing anything they have at home that they think that it could be useful. But we need the governments to send us a lot of support. We need specialized people in order to tell us where to move things, how to put things, and even to inspect houses. We don't know the structural condition of houses, of underground garages. Here in the town where I live, they have been looking at the garage a few hours ago because they didn't know if structurally they were fine. After 5 days full of water, that is a massive pressure to the walls, that's a massive pressure to the floor. We need to inspect so many houses in order to be safe before telling people go back and live in your house.
Good to talk to you, Samuel. Thanks for that. I wish you all the best. Samuel Romero, civil engineer, lives in Aldaya, one of the towns that's suffering the worst of the floods. Let's talk now to Jim Dale. Jim Dale, founder and senior meteorologist at British Weather Services. Hello, Jim.
Hi, Nick.
So we've heard about the Valencia national disaster, Cyprus facing an emergency evacuation, floods submerged Paphos, Finland is exporting snow-saving mats to ski resorts hit by climate change, New York telling its citizens to save water as it faces a drought, there's wildfires in Idaho, burned 500,000 acres last month, residents in New Jersey evacuated because of wildfires. The smoke from the wildfires kills hundreds of thousands of people worldwide. And insurance companies are now withdrawing policies against flooding and fire and storm damage because the payouts are coming too costly. If only somebody had told us.
Oh, yes. We've had this conversation quite a few times now. And, recently, obviously, you're doing my job for me, basically. That's what I do. You're joining the dots and your picture is an ugly one, to be honest with you. Look, we know this is climate change. We know that these events in terms of the storms, the floods, the wildfires can occur on their own and be in isolation, but not to the degree that they're happening at this moment in time. The Valencia episode, Samuel put it very, very well, to be honest with you, in terms of his experiences of that. And it really takes them almost back, the residents who have been mostly affected, almost to primitive times, if you like. In other words, that they're even having to search for water and food and the basic issues all around that. They're really having to start again. I mean, they're in an absolute state of acute shock, to be honest with you. And you saw probably the anger that was put forward by some of the residents at the King and the Queen that visited and local dignitaries going through. Now, I'm not, I don't think you can necessarily blame the King in this case. we learn lessons from things like this.
Do we?
Well, we should learn lessons. Let's put that word in first. We should learn lessons, but I don't think we are. I don't think we're learning fast enough. I've said on your program before that we need to start learning about safety and survival, heeding warnings. What do they mean? Where should you go? You see all the cars that have been piled up in the streets in and around Valencia, and you think to yourself, what was going on at that time when this torrential rain was falling and people are in a car? Because you've got to, I'll say openly, because I've written the book Surviving Extreme Weather, you don't get in a car to survive a flood. That's one of the worst places you could be. So having seen the
videos of it, though, you can understand why people would want to get in their car, because they would feel that, okay, so the water is coming down the road, I'll just drive away. But the speed at which it changed from a trickle to a flood was just absolutely extraordinary.
And there is that as well. Of course, there are situations now that we're now in that almost can't be avoided because they happen so quickly or so dramatically. We're in a new world. The oceans now are so warm. The extra energy that's put into the atmosphere, that the moisture can manifest itself and put down extreme amounts of rainfall very, very quickly. It's just a new ball game for everybody. So look, we need to learn very quickly. We really need to learn. And when I say we, I take that from the individual all the way up through local authorities to governments to COP29, which is turning up round the corner any second now.
But COP29, I mean, it's almost as though they're gaslighting us. COP29 is taking place in Azerbaijan. Mm-hmm. Exports from Azerbaijan are 95% of the value oil and gas.
Yes, fossil fuel, exactly that. It's almost like, you're supping with the devil, isn't it? And now I don't want to blame Azerbaijan in this case. It's they're at least hosting it, but it is that. Look, politicians, Samuel mentioned it, politicians have not got a grasp of this at all. Even in this country, we've got still in the House of Commons deniers of climate change, man-made climate change, that is. They have to be exposed for what they're doing now, because it's dangerous, as we've seen in the third largest city in Spain, Valencia, as we've seen in the places that you mentioned. We could mention Dubai, we could mention Houston, we could mention so many places in this last year, 2 years.
And these are sorry to interrupt, Jim, but these are just individual instances. But what do you make of the 44 leading climate scientists that sent an open letter as warning that what's called the AMOC, the Atlantic I always have trouble with this, meridional overturning circulation.
You're not the only one who has trouble with that word.
A giant ocean conveyor belt that includes the Gulf Stream and transports heat to where we are. And the stalling of it precipitated the last ice age.
Yeah, look, it's a different kettle of fish, but it's of the same nature that's going on around the globe in terms of what comes first. Does that kick in and we end up with an ice age? Make it clear, that's an ice age in the northern hemisphere Atlantic area. So it's ourselves, it'll be Norway, Iceland, this sort of area, up to New York and Boston and places like this. If that occurs, and these scientists are actually saying that these are not just sort of people who twiddle around at the margins. They're very serious about what's going on here, and if it's not that, then the Doomsday Glacier down in Antarctica, it might take 200 years for that one to melt and put sea levels up by 10 feet, but it's incremental. So, it'll be bit by bit as that thing continues to make. I found out today, Mount Fuji, first time in 130 years in Japan this is, no snow on the top of Mount Fuji. So the signs are very, very clear of what's going on. So the reasons and rhymes for now accelerating what we do in terms of the education, in terms of the warnings, the safety, survival, what you do, what you don't do, has now got to become even more paramount than perhaps the mitigation, because I think we're a bit late on the mitigation, to say the least. So this is now becoming very critical. And although people in the UK might be listening to this and thinking, "Oh, we're okay. It's not going to happen to us ever." That's what the people of Valencia probably said.
Yes.
A few days ago. And look what's happened there. So we've got to be very careful now going forward.
Good to talk to you, Jim. Jim Dale, founder and senior meteorologist at British Weather Services. Now we'll continue to talk about water, but closer to home and more manageable, although the quality of it is abysmal, as we've been discussing. And there was a march for clean water in London today. Over 15,000 people took part. If you were on that march, I'd be interested to hear from you and what your ideas, your thoughts about what we actually do to get ourselves out of this mess that we've got ourselves in, where the water companies are now in debt to the tune of £60 billion, and many of them claim that they don't have the money to do the infrastructure repairs that we bill payers assumed that we'd already paid for.